It is 11 o'clock at night. The house is completely silent. You are sitting on the sofa, scrolling through your phone or reading a book, when that unmistakable, prickling sensation hits the back of your neck. The feeling of being watched. You slowly lower your phone and glance across the room. There, sitting on the edge of the coffee table, is your cat. They are completely motionless. Their body is carved out of stone. Their front paws are clamped tightly together, their tail is wrapped rigid against their flank, and their eyes are locked dead onto your face. Not a casual glance. An intense, unblinking, piercing stare that seems to drill straight through your eyes and into the back of your skull. You smile. You chuckle a little to break the eerie tension in the room. You say, "What are you looking at, you little weirdo? Are you judging me?" You blink at them. They do not blink back. You shift your weight on the couch. Their eyes do not track your movement, they stay locked on your face with an unnerving, frozen intensity. Their pupils are widened into two obsidian pools, completely swallowing the iris. Their whiskers are drawn slightly backward against their cheeks. You wave your hand. Nothing. They just continue to stare. Eventually, you laugh it off. You take a funny picture, send it to a friend with the caption, "My cat is possessed," turn off the living room lamp, and go to bed. And in doing so, you may have just walked right past one of the most critical, urgent biological signals a feline can ever give a human being. Because here is the clinical truth that almost no cat owner is ever told, in the wild, in feline neurobiology, and in clinical veterinary medicine, an unblinking, locked stare is never a random quirk. It is never your cat just zoning out. And it is almost never your cat judging you. A fixed feline stare is an active, high-priority neurological event. Depending on the microsignals hidden inside that gaze, your cat is either experiencing an internal medical crisis that is silently destroying their organs, teetering on the edge of a violent predatory misdirection, or signaling an acute pain spike that their evolutionary instincts are forcing them to hide from you. Please, take a deep, slow breath. If your cat has stared at you like this in the past, do not drown yourself in guilt. Cats evolved over millions of years to conceal their vulnerabilities behind a mask of stoic silence, and their communication system is written in micro-expressions that human eyes were never naturally built to decode. Hi everyone. I am Dr. Evelyn Vance, and welcome to Paw Secrets Lab. For the past 12 years, I have worked as a veterinary clinical practitioner and feline neurobehavioral specialist. Every single week, frantic owners bring cats into my clinic for sudden aggression, unexplained health crashes, or severe behavioral distress. And when I trace the timeline backward, asking the owners when the very first subtle sign appeared, 9 times out of 10 they tell me the exact same story. "Well, Doc, about 3 weeks ago, they just started staring at me strangely." Today, we are putting an end to the guesswork. In Chapter 1, we are going to decode the feline ocular architecture and break down the 3 distinct gaze signatures, so you can tell the difference between pure affection and a neurological alarm in 3 seconds flat. In Chapter 2, we will expose the red flag clinical stare, the silent medical emergencies, from systemic hypertension to absent seizures, that present exclusively as a blank, unblinking gaze. In Chapter 3, I will reveal the predatory glitch, why your cat's stare suddenly turns into an ambush on your face, hands, or ankles, and the exact psychological trigger that causes it. And in Chapter 4, I will teach you the Paw Secrets Gaze Response Protocol, the 4-step physical and environmental sequence veterinary behaviorists use to safely de-escalate, test, and respond to a staring cat without triggering an attack or missing a medical crisis. Hit that subscribe button right now to join our global family of educated, proactive pet parents here at Paw Secrets Lab. Grab a notebook, look closely at your cat, and let us decode the secret language of the feline gaze right now. Chapter 1, the ocular architecture and the 3 gaze signatures. To understand why a cat's stare can be so significant, we first have to understand the magnificent, terrifying piece of biological engineering that is the feline eye. Humans and cats experience visual reality through entirely different neurological hardware. The human eye is built for color differentiation, daytime clarity, and complex social signaling. We have a massive amount of white sclera visible around our irises specifically so other humans can track the direction of our gaze from across a room. In humans, eye contact is social currency. A cat's eye is engineered for one primary purpose: low light, predatory motion detection. Cats possess a specialized reflective layer of tissue directly behind their retina called the tapetum lucidum. This structure acts like a biological mirror, bouncing photons back through the photoreceptors a second time, giving them visual acuity in light levels 6 times lower than what a human needs. Furthermore, cats possess a specialized anatomical adaptation called the nictitating membrane, or the third eyelid. This translucent internal shield sweeps across the cornea horizontally, lubricating and protecting the eye without requiring the main eyelids to close. This means a cat does not need to blink the way you and I do. When a human maintains eye contact without blinking for 6 seconds, it takes conscious, uncomfortable effort. For a cat, keeping their eyelids pinned open for 2 full minutes requires zero physical strain. Because blinking is not a mechanical necessity for them, every single movement, or lack of movement, in their eyelids, pupils, and facial fascia is a deliberate, emotionally driven choice. In feline behavioral neuroscience, we categorize the feline gaze into 3 distinct signatures: the soft affiliative gaze, the oxytocin loop. This is the gaze of pure, biological trust. The eyelids are relaxed, often resting at half-mast. The brow is smooth. The pupils are responsive to ambient room light, neither completely blown wide nor pinned into tiny slits. Most importantly, this gaze contains the slow blink. When a cat holds your gaze with soft eyes and slowly draws their eyelids shut for 1 to 2 seconds before opening them, their brain is releasing oxytocin. In feline social dynamics, voluntarily shutting your eyes while looking at another predator is the ultimate statement of safety. It means, I do not need to monitor you, because I know you will not kill me. The focused predatory track, the dopamine lock, this is the gaze of an active hunter. The eyes are wide, the pupils are moderately dilated to maximize peripheral movement tracking, and the gaze shifts rapidly between your movement and the environment. You will see accompanying micro-movements, a twitching tail tip, whiskers pushed forward like a radar dish, and weight shifting subtly onto the hindquarters. This is natural, healthy play drive. The rigid somatic freeze, the red flag stare, this is the gaze you must never ignore. The eyes are wide and completely fixed. There is zero blinking. The pupils are often dilated inappropriately for the lighting of the room, either completely blown wide in a brightly lit space or oddly asymmetrical. The facial muscles around the muzzle and whiskers are pulled tight. The body is completely frozen in place, and the cat does not respond to soft verbal cues or slight changes in their environment. This third gaze is not affection. It is not curiosity. It is a signal that your cat's nervous system has entered an abnormal physiological state. And to understand what is happening inside their body in that moment, we have to look at the hidden medical emergencies that cause it. Chapter TWO, the red flag clinical stare, silent medical emergencies. As a veterinarian, this is the most difficult conversation I have with cat owners. Because cats are evolutionary mesopredators, meaning they are both hunters of small rodents and prey for larger carnivores, they possess a hardwired survival instinct known as masking behavior. In the wild, a cat that shows obvious signs of pain, weakness, or disorientation is immediately targeted by predators or driven out of their territory by rival felines. Therefore, when a cat develops a severe internal illness, they do not whine, limp, or cry out like a dog would. They get quiet. They freeze. And they stare. If your cat is staring at you, through you, or at a blank wall with a rigid, unresponsive gaze, here are the 4 critical medical conditions you must immediately rule out. Text the clinical stare checklist. 1. Systemic feline hypertension, silent pressure. 2. Feline grimace scale, acute pain spikes. 3. Absence and focal seizures, neurological absence. 4. Feline cognitive dysfunction, senior neurodecay. Systemic feline hypertension, the silent pressure spike. Feline high blood pressure is one of the most common undiagnosed killers of domestic cats, particularly those over the age of 8. It is almost always secondary to underlying chronic kidney disease, CKD, or hyperthyroidism. When a cat's systemic blood pressure spikes dangerously high, the delicate microvasculature supplying the retina becomes severely engorged. This causes acute retinal edema or even partial retinal detachment. To the cat, their vision suddenly becomes blurry, hazy, or filled with flashing light artifacts. They do not know what is happening. They become disoriented, freeze in place, and stare directly at you with wildly dilated pupils that do not constrict even if you turn on an overhead light. They are not staring because they are being sweet, they are staring because their visual cortex is failing and they are desperately trying to resolve the blurred shape of their primary caregiver. If you notice your senior cat staring blankly with oversized pupils in a bright room, this is a medical emergency. Caught early, blood pressure medications can restore their sight and prevent a catastrophic stroke. The Feline Grimace Scale, Acute Visceral Pain. In 2019, researchers at the University of Montreal published a groundbreaking, clinically validated diagnostic tool called the Feline Grimace Scale. It proved that cats communicate acute internal pain through 5 precise facial micro-expressions. When a cat is experiencing an acute pain spike from conditions like pancreatitis, a blocked urethra, especially in male cats, or painful arthritis, they often lock their eyes onto their owner while displaying the Grimace triad. Orbital tightening, the eyes are held in a fixed, strained gaze, partially squinted but unblinking. Ear flattening, the ears are pulled outward and downward, rotating away from their natural upright posture. Muzzle tension, the whisker pads flatten and bunch up into an elliptical shape, causing the whiskers to stand straight out or curve forward. When a cat is locked in this facial posture, staring at you from across the room, they are experiencing significant physical distress. They are literally looking at you while their brain is completely overwhelmed by nociceptive pain signals. Focal and absent seizures, the neurological disconnect. When people think of seizures, they picture violent, full-body thrashing on the floor. But in felines, a huge percentage of seizure activity is focal or absence-based. During an absent seizure, a sudden, abnormal electrical discharge fires across the cat's cerebral cortex. The cat does not fall over. Instead, their consciousness temporarily disconnects. They will stand or sit completely frozen, staring into space or directly at you, completely unresponsive to their name, snapping fingers, or touch. You might see tiny, rhythmic micro-twitches at the tips of their ears, an involuntary fluttering of their whiskers, or a subtle lip-smacking motion. After 15 to 45 seconds, the electrical storm passes, the cat blinks, looks around looking slightly dazed or disoriented, and goes back to their day. If your cat zones out or into an unbreakable stare where they seem completely absent from their own body for 30 seconds, film it immediately on your phone and show your veterinarian. Feline Cognitive Dysfunction Syndrome, Senior Dementia. If your cat is over 11 years old and has started staring blankly at blank walls, into empty corners, or directly at you with a vacant, searching expression, especially at night, their brain may be undergoing neurodegenerative changes. Feline cognitive dysfunction, FCD, causes spatial disorientation and disruptions in the sleep-wake cycle. A senior cat staring at you with a hollow gaze is often experiencing a sudden wave of spatial amnesia. They have momentarily forgotten where they are, what room they are in, or who you are, and their brain is locked in an assessment loop trying to re-anchor itself. Chapter 3, The Behavioral Ambush Stare, Displaced Drive. Now, what if your cat has been checked by a vet, their blood pressure is pristine, their organs are healthy, but they still give you that intense, unblinking, rigid stare? Then you are dealing with a behavioral and psychological phenomenon called predatory misdirection and arousal stacking. Here is how a normal play interaction turns into a dangerous, fixed stare that ends with teeth in your arm. Text the arousal escalation timeline: visual trigger, neurological lock, ambush, moving hand, foot rigid, unblinking explosive or window animal dilated stare strike, 0 seconds, 3 to 5 seconds, immediate. The mechanism of displaced aggression. Imagine this scenario: your cat is sitting on the windowsill. Outside, a stray neighborhood cat walks across the lawn or a bird lands on the fence 3 feet away. Your cat's brain instantly floods with adrenaline, testosterone, and dopamine. Their predatory and territorial circuits fire at maximum capacity. They want to attack. They want to defend their space. But there is a pane of double-glazed glass in the way. The cat physically cannot discharge that massive surge of neurochemical arousal. The energy has nowhere to go. Now, you walk into the living room. You walk past the window, completely unaware of what your cat just saw. You say, "Hey sweetie," and reach your hand down to pet them. Your cat turns their head and locks their eyes onto your hand. That stare is cold. It is wide. It is unblinking. In feline behavioral science, this is called arousal spillover. Your cat's sympathetic nervous system is so heavily saturated with fight-or-flight hormones that their brain literally misidentifies your reaching hand not as their loving owner, but as an invading threat or a moving target. If you ignore that stare and keep moving your hand forward, you will trigger an explosive, zero-inhibition bite that can easily cause severe puncture wounds and bacterial infections. The petting-induced freeze. The second common behavioral scenario occurs while you are actively cuddling your cat. You are petting them on your lap. They are purring. Everything feels perfect. And then, suddenly, the purring stops. Your cat's body goes slightly rigid. They turn their head around and lock their eyes dead onto your wrist. They are staring at your hand with an unblinking, hyper-focused gaze. Many owners misread this. They think, oh, they are looking at my hand because they want more pets. Do not touch them. That sudden, frozen stare is the universal feline microsignal for sensory receptor exhaustion. A cat's hair follicles are attached to exquisitely sensitive nerve endings. Prolonged, repetitive tactile stimulation can quickly cross the line from pleasurable to physically painful, a state of neurological overstimulation called cutaneous hyperesthesia. When a cat freezes and stares at your hand, their brain is saying, my sensory threshold has been breached. I am giving you a 3-second visual boundary warning. If that hand moves toward me one more time, I will defend my body. If you know how to read the stare, nobody gets bitten. If you ignore the stare, the trip to urgent care is almost guaranteed. Chapter 4, The Poor Secrets Gaze Response Protocol. So, what do you actually do when you look across the room and catch your cat staring at you with that intense, unblinking, frozen gaze? You do not panic. You do not shout. And you never stare back aggressively. You execute the Poor Secrets Gaze Response Protocol. This is a precise, 4-step clinical and behavioral diagnostic sequence designed to de-escalate, test, and respond to a staring cat without triggering an attack or missing a medical crisis. Text the Poor Secrets Gaze Response Protocol. Step 1, the 45-degree gaze break confrontation. Step 2, the slow blink reset, deploy oxytocin. Step 3, the lateral stimulus test, check neural track. Step 4, the environmental diffusion, clear the circuit. Step 1, the 45-degree gaze break. The absolute worst thing you can do when a cat gives you a hard, unblinking stare is to stare straight back into their eyes. In predator body language, an unbroken, frontal human stare is perceived as an active dominance challenge or an imminent attack signal. It elevates their heart rate, spikes their cortisol, and accelerates their defensive reflexes. The second you notice the rigid stare, tilt your chin down and turn your head 45 degrees to the side. By turning your head, you immediately break the visual axis of confrontation. You show the cat the soft side of your neck, which communicates absolute non-aggression in universal mammalian body language. You are instantly removing yourself as an active threat. Step 2, the slow blink reset. While maintaining that 45-degree angle, look at your cat through your peripheral vision. Take a slow, deep breath to lower your own physiological resonance. Then, deliberately close your eyes. Hold them closed for a full 2 seconds. Slowly open them, look slightly away, and repeat the slow blink a second time. Now, watch their response closely. If the cat slow blinks back or turns their head to groom, the tension has broken. The stare was an emotional or social check-in, and their parasympathetic nervous system has successfully taken over. If the cat continues to stare through you without blinking, you are dealing with either severe behavioral arousal stacking or an underlying medical event. Move immediately to Step 3. Step 3, the lateral stimulus test, checking the neural track. We now need to test if your cat's visual cortex and cognitive processing are physically connected to reality. Take a low-value, non-threatening object, a pen, a folded piece of paper, or a cat toy that is resting nearby. Do not make a sudden movement. Slowly introduce the object into their peripheral visual field, about 2 feet away from their face, and gently move it horizontally across the floor. Watch their eyes. Normal visual tracking: if their pupils immediately dilate, their head turns, and their gaze tracks the object smoothly, their visual apparatus is intact. They were likely locked in a behavioral predatory or overstimulation freeze. Discontinue all physical petting, give them physical space, and let them decompress in a quiet room for at least 30 minutes. Abnormal tracking: the medical alert if their eyes do not move at all, if they continue staring blankly forward as if the moving object does not exist, or if their pupils remain frozen and fully dilated under direct light. This is an immediate red flag. Their visual cortex is either compromised by acute hypertension, they are in the postictal phase of an absent seizure, or they are experiencing profound visceral pain shock. Step 4. The emergency feline grimace assessment. If your cat failed the stimulus test, or if their gaze is accompanied by the flattened ears, hunched posture, and tightly bunched whisker pads we discussed in Chapter 2, do not attempt to pick them up in your arms. A cat in acute pain may bite out of sheer defensive reflex. Instead, gently place an open travel crate with a familiar blanket next to them, guide them in calmly, and contact your nearest emergency veterinary facility immediately. Tell the triage nurse, "My cat is presenting with sudden unresponsiveness, fixed pupillary dilation, and symptoms matching acute ocular or systemic distress." Those specific words will get your cat triaged immediately ahead of routine cases. I want you to think about something before you go to bed tonight. Your cat lives in a world entirely constructed by you. You choose what they eat, what rooms they can enter, when the lights turn on, and when the world goes dark. They cannot write you a letter when their kidneys begin to hurt. They cannot sit you down and tell you that the stray cat outside the window terrified them so badly their heart is beating at 300 beats per minute. They cannot tell you that their blood pressure is soaring and the world is turning into a terrifying, blurry haze. All they have are their eyes. Those two luminous, ancient, incredibly complex windows into their nervous system. When your cat sits across from you and locks their gaze onto your face, they are not being a weird pet. They are using the only tool evolution gave them to bridge the massive communication gap between a 4-pound predator and a human being. They are trusting you to be smart enough, observant enough, and loving enough to look past the surface and read the truth written in their eyes. You are no longer an owner who just laughs at a strange stare and walks away. You are an educated protector. You know the difference between the soft blink of profound love, the focused lock of the hunt, and the silent, frozen stare of an animal calling out for help. That knowledge changes everything. Now, I want to hear from you. Does your cat have a habit of staring at you at strange times of the day? Have you ever noticed them zoning out into empty corners, or freezing right before they swat at your hand? Tell me your stories in the comments below. I read through every single one, and your shared experiences help thousands of other cat parents realize they are not alone in decoding their feline family members. If this deep dive gave you a brand new lens through which to understand your cat, please gently tap that like button. It signals the YouTube algorithm that real, science-backed feline veterinary education matters, and it helps us protect cats all over the world from preventable emergencies. Make sure you hit that subscribe button to join our growing family here at Paw Secrets Lab, because we are dropping deep, research-backed animal behavior masterclasses every single week. I am Dr. Evelyn Vance. Watch those eyes tonight. Look for the slow blink. Respect the boundary when they freeze. And I will see you in the very next one.